Hello, good afternoon, everyone. After a long break, we are going to resume our ethics classes from today. And today we are starting a new unit which is called Aptitude and Foundational Values. So, without further ado, let's dive right into the chapter. It's called Aptitude and Foundational Values for Civil Services. We have two beautiful quotes here. Aptitude without attitude is blind, and attitude without aptitude is lame. This is a quote by Richard Marcel. Marcel, yeah, one. And which simply means that attitude and aptitude both are equally necessary in our lives. And the difference between attitude, what is aptitude, and how it differs from attitude, which we have studied thoroughly in our previous chapter, we are going to understand all of that. And also this our second quote is, genius is nothing but a greater aptitude for patience. Now we have this keyword aptitude. What does aptitude mean? If you can remember these quotes, it could be very helpful in your essay, in your answers, right? So as usual, before we go into the topic and learn what aptitude is, we have to prime our brains to understand and to recognize the patterns from where maximum questions have been asked in the past. Okay, so let's go through a few questions. We are not going to answer, or we are not even going to try to answer at this point. We are just going through and understanding what kind of questions have been asked from this section in the previous years of UPSC. Okay, so first question is, aptitude is an inherent potential to acquire skills through training, whereas skill is the actual capability acquired after training, right? How does a public servant balance both in dynamic policy implementation? How does a public servant balance both aptitude and skill in dynamic policy implementation? That is our first question. Then what do you understand by compassion as a foundational value? Because remember, along with aptitude, we have to study foundational values that are required in civil services. Okay, so compassion as a foundational value in public administration, how does it differ from empathy? We have to learn what compassion is, what empathy is, and the difference between the two. Then we have explained the importance of objectivity as a foundational value. Objectivity, all right, as a foundational value in civil service. How can a civil servant remain objective when faced with political pressure, under political pressure? What do you understand by compassion? Again, it has been repeatedly asked. As a foundational value in public administration, how does it differ from empathy? Okay, this is the same question that is repeated. The same question was not repeated in UPSC, but in my slides it got repeated by mistake. Okay. Now, identify 10 essential values that are needed to be an effective public servant, 10 essential values, and differentiate between aptitude and attitude. How do they together shape the behavior of an administrator? Then we have, what do you understand by moral integrity and professional efficiency in the context of corporate governance, public services? Illustrate with suitable examples, moral integrity and professional efficiency. Why should impartiality and non-partisanship be considered as foundational values? That means you have to learn about impartiality, you have to learn about non-partisanship, and why they are considered as foundational values in public services, especially in the present day socio-political context. Illustrate your answer with examples. So these are some of the questions. Okay. Now, let's get introduced to the core topic of aptitude. What does it actually mean? Aptitude, simply in one term, in one word, it simply means potential. Okay, do remember potential. Aptitude simply means potential. Aptitude refers to the natural or acquired abilities. It could be natural or it could be acquired abilities that indicate an individual's ability to develop proficiency in certain areas. It is not the skill itself, it's not the ability itself, but the ability to learn, the ability to develop, the potential to learn. Potential to learn, or potential to hone your skills, or potential to learn. Okay, so it is kind of futuristic. It's talking about your future. It is not your current set of skills, but it is talking about future. All right. It indicates an individual's potential for the future. So future is the keyword, potential is the keyword. How much can you learn if you are trained correctly? That is your aptitude. It is a natural propensity for some particular skills to be learned successfully. Natural propensity for some particular skills to be learned successfully. Okay, these skills can then be improved upon with the right information and right instruction. With right information, with right instruction, if you do have the potential, these skills be improved upon and you can be master at those. Are you learning? Vikash, eagerly waiting for your class, ma'am. Finally, yes, finally, Vikash. And the last time you connected, I said I would be resuming from 12th. But on 12th, we had a very special program. We were opening a new branch at Tejpur, Skodemi Tejpur. So I had to be there and I returned to Guwahati. And yesterday it was late night and I could not take class yesterday. So today we finally resume, and thank you for being so eager to learn. It's really wonderful to know. Then, for example, it can be improved through training or formal intervention. So training and formal intervention part comes later. At first you have the potential, and according to your potential, by recognizing or acknowledging your potential, what do? We undergo training or formal intervention, but improvement may have limitations. Okay, according to everyone's potential. Everyone's potential is different and varies to a great degree. So according to that, the performance, the final outcome is different. Although people, we may take a group of people and make them undergo the exact same quality or exact same hours of training, but the end result is always different. Why? Because each of the candidates have different potentials. Okay, for example, Sachin Tendulkar became a great cricketer because he had aptitude for cricket and was provided necessary training. Sachin Tendulkar already had aptitude for cricket. He was born with that aptitude for cricket, and on top of that, he was provided with the necessary training. Other batsmen are not as good as him. They are quite wonderful batsmen, but not as good as him, even after similar training, because of lesser aptitude than him. This we can find in all sorts of professions, in all sorts of sports or any kind of skill set. Okay, now categorization of aptitude. There are different kinds of aptitude and there are different categories, and now let's see what are the different categories of aptitude. First we have physical aptitude. Okay, physical aptitude is talking about physical characteristics for performing some tasks successfully. Physical characteristics for performing some tasks successfully. Kind of, in common language, we call it kind of blessed in a way to do certain tasks. For example, If you are very tall, you can try modeling, for example. Okay, so some of the physical characteristics that we have supports us in pursuing certain kinds of careers. Now, for example, armed forces require a specific set of physical features like physical stamina, certain height and eyesight, and all of that. That is physical aptitude. For example, Usain Bolt, had unusually long legs. Of course, that is why he could run faster. So his unusually long legs helped him in running faster, and of course, with necessary training, he could achieve all that he did, right? Mr. Ian Thorpe, also known as Torpedo, has unusually large feet, size 17, which is quite unusually large. And also for Michael Phelps, who won multiple gold medals in Olympic, he had a special kind of his body had a very special kind of structure that allowed him, as very elongated, kind of a butterfly kind of shape, very elongated, very long, that helped him to swim faster. Okay. Now let's talk about mental attitude. The second category of attitude is mental attitude, and mental characteristics for performing some tasks successfully. It is regarded as important for all types of services, more so for civil services. Now, mental attitude is important for all types of services, no doubt about that. But it is extremely important for civil services, okay? For example, a civil servant is required to have mental ability like quick thinking, presence of mind, decision-making ability, observation skills, analytical skills, critical thinking skills, logical ability, reasoning ability, right? And mental ability. And all of that comes under mental ability. They need magnanimity, like ability to think at a very large scale, rationality, compassion, etc. All of these qualities are required and expected of a civil servant for him to perform at his optimum, right? Now, relationship of aptitude with other qualities, attitude and skills. Relationship of aptitude with other qualities like attitude and skills. Aptitude and skills, that is the relationship that we are going to study. Aptitude is raw native talent that can be worked upon. It is still raw, it is still native, and we have a lot to work upon. It's like a raw mineral ore that needs to be refined. Okay. Skill is acquired through training and constantly upgraded. So skill is what we get after aptitude meets training. Meets training. Aptitude plus training equals to your skill. And the skills are constantly upgraded. Aptitude is not skill, but what is already there. It is the raw thing, it is the native thing before anyone undergoes training, any kind of formal training or formal intervention, okay? So that can be nurtured. Skills are the abilities that can be acquired by way of reading, observation, practice, and training, whereas aptitude is inborn and unique. Aptitude is inborn and unique, okay? So skills are the abilities that can be acquired by reading, by observation, by practice, and by training. Then we have example, a person can acquire certain cricketing skills by training. Yes, of course, if anyone is given training, even if I undergo training of some sorts of cricketing skills, I can learn to some degree, although at this point I have zero knowledge. But if I am given proper training, I can acquire some skills to some degree, but will find it hard to become a successful cricketer. That does not mean that I will become a successful cricketer. I won't, because I know I do not have the aptitude, right? Unless he has aptitude for the same. Now, interest. What the difference or the relationship of aptitude and interest? What is it? Interest in an individual's preference. Interest is an individual's preference. What do you prefer? What do you like? Irrespective of whether you have got the aptitude for the same or not, but what do you actually like? For example, I may have interest in singing, but I cannot sing. I have no aptitude for singing, right? So individual preference for engaging in one or more specific activities relative to others, while aptitude is the potential that we have already discussed. For example, Sushant Singh Rajput had interest in cosmology but aptitude for acting. Something similar goes for Priyanka Chopra. I think she wanted to be an astronaut or NASA astronaut or something like that. She used to mention in her interviews that she wanted to be an astronaut or NASA scientist or something like that. But she had aptitude for acting, so she became an actor finally. So these are some of the examples, right? Now, one word is missing here. It refers to a broad range. Intelligence. We are talking about aptitude and intelligence. Intelligence is and refers to. Intelligence is and refers to a broad range of mental abilities such as comprehension, understanding, reasoning, logical ability, and whereas aptitude has narrow scope involving personal strengths and weaknesses and reflects specialized nature of that intelligence that is directed towards something. I think one or two words got mixed up somewhere, but anyway, I'll explain it to you in my own words. Now, intelligence is a broad range of mental abilities. For example, there are 7 types of intelligences, 7 types, okay? 7 types of intelligence, it is said, according to one scientist. I'm forgetting his name. For example, linguistic intelligence is one. Linguistic intelligence, mathematical, naturalistic, kinetic, okay, kinetic, and what are the rest? Like kinetic, natural intelligence. Wait, let me check. I'm going to write all of them down. Yeah, okay. So it was a theory given by Howard Gardner, was a psychologist. Howard Gardner's, you don't need this name, okay? Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. So linguistic intelligence is one. Bodily kinesthetic, those who are interested or those who are very good at sports, they possess this kind of intelligence. It is called bodily kinesthetic intelligence. And some people have naturalistic intelligence, people who become environmentalists, botanists, you know, they have naturalistic intelligence. And there's mathematical intelligence, those who are good in physics, in maths, the scientists, the physicists, they have this logical mathematical intelligence. Then we have verbal linguistic intelligence, those who are very good with words, word smart. The writers, the poets, they have this verbal linguistic intelligence. Then there's musical intelligence, those who are good in music, in singing, dancing, they do possess this musical intelligence. Then we have visual intelligence for people who are designers, architects, interior designers, you know, they do possess a very good visual spatial intelligence, okay? And there is also intrapersonal intelligence and interpersonal intelligence, okay? So these are different kind of intelligences. So by intelligence, we do not only mean scoring good marks. That's how we understand that musical intelligence is also intelligence. Naturalistic intelligence is also intelligence. So the spectrum is very, very broad. It's not just limited to how much you are scoring in science, math, history, polity, right? Again, that is intelligence, whereas aptitude requires a degree of intelligence to do the job well. Aptitude in its own is the potential, but in order to turn that aptitude into skill, we will require some kind of intelligence in between. So having some degree of intelligence is a basic necessity for turning an aptitude into an actual skill or actual talent. All right. Then two people may have the same but may have different. I think something went wrong while editing this slide. Same IQ, same IQ, intelligence quotient. Two people may have the same IQ but may have different generic intelligence. For example, IQ, not aptitude. That is one to become a doctor and another to become an engineer. So same IQ, the score, IQ score is same, but aptitude is different. IQ is same, but one has got the aptitude to become a doctor, another has got an aptitude to become an engineer, yet another has got the aptitude to become a pianist, for example, right? So even if people may have the same IQ, but the aptitude might differ, and that is why the careers they finally succeed in becomes different, okay? Then we have aptitude and ability. What is the difference between aptitude and ability? See, aptitude indicates the individual's potential. Yes, we have discussed that. What an individual will be able to learn or do. What will you be able to learn or do? For example, with me, even if somebody puts me with a great, vocalist, a trainer, yet I will find it very difficult to sing. I do not have aptitude for that, right? So what an individual will be able to learn. So being able to learn is called the aptitude. Being or not being able to learn, that part is aptitude. Whereas ability presents the evidence of what the individual is able to do now. Aptitude is future. Ability is now. What can you do at this present moment? That is your ability, okay? Example, a person might have a good aptitude for acting but presently able to find roles as supporting artists only. Very good aptitude for acting, but presently can find roles as supporting artists only because they have to learn more, they have to train more, okay? Then aptitude and values. In ethical perspective, aptitude represents desired value in a person with respect to a specific requirement. Aptitude represents desired value in a person with respect to a specific requirement. For example, civil servants should have some foundational values on which they could evaluate things. Okay, some desired values that are required for in respect to a specific requirement. For example, in order to become a civil servant, you need to have or certain qualities, certain values. So these can be used to judge other things. They can be goal oriented, example, social, political and economic justice. One second. Give me one moment. Okay. Yeah, they can be goal oriented, for example, social, political, and economic justice, and means oriented, for example, empathy, integrity, discipline, impartiality, etc. These are the kind of values that we are looking for when somebody is wanting to be a civil servant, okay? Then we have aptitude plus achievement equals to ability. Aptitude, futuristic achievement, what you can do now becomes your ability. What you can achieve until now becomes your ability. Now, what is the difference between aptitude, proficiency, and achievement? What is aptitude? What is proficiency? And what is achievement? Achievement we already know, but proficiency. Proficiency is the ability to perform an activity with ease and precision. The ability to perform an activity with ease and precision. Proficient in language, proficient in dance, proficient in swimming, okay, with ease and precision. Achievement looks at the past, what you have already achieved. It looks at your past. By your past, it determines what you have achieved, what has been done already, accomplished. Aptitude indicates future. Now, proficiency is present. What can you do presently and how well can you do it? Michael Phelps has proficiency in swimming. Because of this, he has won 28 Olympic medals. Okay, so that is proficiency. Next up, difference between attitude and aptitude. Through an example, we are going to understand the difference between aptitude and attitude through an administrative example, okay? An administrator may have a good aptitude in resolving communal issues. The aptitude part is all good. Very good aptitude in resolving communal issues. They can communicate well. Communication is good. They have good understanding. They're empathetic. They have very high emotional intelligence. And that is why they have a very good aptitude in solving communal issues. But in one particular case, they may have negative attitudes towards a particular community. In the past, they have been resolving communal issues very successfully, but one day they come across a situation where a particular community is involved, which they do not have a very favorable attitude towards. So the attitude part, this is where that person got challenged this time, which will naturally influence his or her overall decisions. Now, the decisions get affected by the attitude, even though they have the aptitude. Is that clear? Is that clear? Now, aptitude for civil services and its role, okay? Aptitude in civil services helps to understand what kind of aptitude do we look for or is expected if you want to become a civil servant. Aptitude in civil services helps to understand the role, its associated responsibilities, and institutional environment easily. Broadly, following kind of aptitude is desired in a civil servant. The following kind of aptitude is desired in a civil servant. Number one, we have communication skills. So you have to have very good level, very high level of communication skills. A civil servant needs to have good communication and interpersonal skills. That means you have to have ultimately good EQ, emotional intelligence, right? So you have to have good communication skills, good interpersonal skills, as he or she will have to bring different stakeholders on one platform for decision making. You will have your office staff, you will have the public, you will have the contractors. So there are several stakeholders. You have to bring them together to have discussions, to make decisions, right? Example, Vikas Kumar Ujjwal. He was a divisional forest officer in Jharkhand who took along the local community and transformed the Maoist hit area into a tourist destination. From a Maoist hit area to turn it into a tourist destination, Mr. Vikas Kumar Ujjwal, who was a divisional forest officer, he played a great role with his communication skills, with his interpersonal skills, with his persuasive skills. Do you remember persuasion from your last unit? So that is how everything is all combined. Now, decision making. Civil servants need an abundance of impromptu decision making, skills and critical thinking ability to exercise discretion and conviction. Okay, civil servants need an abundance of impromptu decision making skills. There will be so many times where you will have no time for brainstorming or no time for dwelling in the thought for a sustained period, but you will have to take impromptu decisions and critical thinking ability to exercise discretion with conviction. Discretion, what is right, what is wrong, and that too with conviction. So decision making skill. For example, sudden crisis situation, sudden disaster, suddenly your district is hit by flood, for example. Suddenly you have got no time to make a panel, sit with them, discuss, go through all the administrative procedures, SOPs. Sometimes you will not get that chance, and then you will have to make impromptu decisions. Then we have as a 10th example. Okay, this is an example. So examples will be of great use to you, so pay attention. As the 10th CEC, Chief Election Commissioner, CEC, Chief Election Commissioner of India, T.N. Seshan, T.N. Seshan IAS, he exemplified bold constitutional decision making, and institutional courage by ruthlessly enforcing the MCC, Model Code of Conduct, by postponing or cancelling elections in constituencies, flouting rules, curbing boot capturing, and introducing mandatory voter ID cards. Despite severe political pushback, can you imagine when an IAS officer takes such a bold step for the first time? It was not usual. Before that, voter ID cards were not mandatory. Following or enforcing of MCC, Model Code of Conduct, was even not necessary, not unlike today. And he brought about that change. Of course, he had to face huge political pushback. He transformed the Election Commission into a feared autonomous pillar of Indian democracy. Next up, we have stewardship. Stewardship. What is stewardship do? Do you know what stewardship is? What is the meaning? Since India is a resource deficit country, a civil servant needs to be an effective manager and responsible protector of state resources. You act as a steward for state resources. India is already a resource deficit country, whether it is the funds to run your office or public funds or any kind of resource. We are always on the deficit side, and you as a civil servant, you are expected to be a very efficient steward of state resources who manages and protects the state resources very responsibly. Okay, next up we have example is in Purnia in Bihar district, DM Rahul Kumar arranged for medical oxygen and during COVID, and restarted a broken down oxygen plant in his city with his smart planning during the second wave of COVID-19. In the second wave of COVID-19, he arranged for restarting of a broken down oxygen plant so that oxygen supply is made available, or there's no shortage of oxygen cylinders. Next is leadership skills. We have already heard of it 1,000 times, like hundreds of innumerable times, like leadership. So such an important skill. Civil servants need to have leadership, means organizational and collaboration skills. Leadership means you lead, you show them by example what is supposed to be done. You show the courage, you see the vision, and you have the ability to mobilize groups to follow or to help you in accomplishing your vision, right? So civil servants need to have leadership, organizational and collaboration skills, as they are entrusted with a diverse set of responsibilities such as decision making, policy implementation, etc. Decision making, they are entrusted with diverse set of responsibilities every now and then, every single day, day in, day out. You have to make decisions, you have to implement policies. So leadership skills is so important. We have a very good example. Faced with a lack of government funds, IAS officer Armstrong Pame, our own, analyze community resources and decisively leverage crowdsourcing and social media. With the help of social media and crowdfunding, he constructed a 100-kilometer people's road connecting remote Manipur villages without official financial support. Without official financial support, constructing a 100-kilometer road in his own thinking, with his own vision and own leadership, without government funding. Quite commendable, right? That is leadership. Then we have professionalism. Professionalism is another quality that is expected of you. Professionalism, okay? Professionalism, high level of professionalism is required to maintain high standards of public administration, as they are the backbone of administration. So high level of professionalism is required. Example, IAS officer Tukaram Munde. He is quite in news these days. You may have seen all the works that he has been doing. Exemplifies uncompromising professionalism and rule-bound governance and uncompromising professionalism through his zero tolerance policy. So his example, you can quote, in fact, in so many areas. It comes under leadership as well, right? His zero tolerance policy towards corruption, towards illegal encroachments and administrative laxity. Despite facing over a dozen political transfers in his tenure, his steadfast adherence to institutional integrity underscores duty above personal comfort. He has been transferred so many times. He has been transferred so many times politically. But his steadfast adherence to institutional integrity, he still sticks. He is not bending under pressure. Okay? So it shows that he puts his duty above personal comfort. Okay? Duty comes first. Then we have persuasive skills. Can you persuade people to change their behavior, to change their attitudes, right? So skills of persuasion and negotiation with others are required, as there might be resistance in the society against changes or any new initiative. There can be changes, there can be new initiatives which the society does not want to adopt or follow. In that case, persuasion and negotiation are quite important skills. For example, Kiran Nayak, a government college lecturer, okay, he's not an IAS, lecturer in Andhra Pradesh, visits remote villages and persuades parents to get their children educated. And you can see his example, visiting their homes, house to house. He, from doorstep to doorstep, he visits and persuades the parents to send their children to school. Next up, we have innovation. Innovation. Since civil servants face diverse problems, innovation means what? Creative solutions to problems, creative solutions, new solutions to problems. Every day, they should be able to find innovative solutions to these problems and challenges. For example, IAS officer Shashanka Ala demonstrated administrative innovation through her My School, My Farm initiative in Mizoram by setting up organic nutrition gardens in Anganwadis and schools. In Anganwadis and government schools, she set up this My School, My Farm initiative. By using local land to grow fresh produce, she creatively tackled what? Childhood malnutrition, while reducing reliance on external supply chains. She reduced reliance on external supply chains. She by doing that, she had cut down costs and also maintained higher qualities, higher standards of nutrition by tackling by providing them organic, homegrown or garden plucked vegetables. Following or not? Then we have adaptability. What does that mean? Adaptability, to adapt to new situations, new scenarios, adaptability, new technology, all of that, adaptability to change. Because of focus on e-governance, let's say, and the ever-changing nature of digital world, e-governance and that too ever-changing nature, also the digital world keeps evolving quite rapidly, I must say. So during the nationwide transition to e-governance and digital welfare delivery like DBT, adaptable civil servants quickly retained field staff and unlearned legacy paper processes. You have to quickly switch into digital modules, digital processes from paperworks. This administrative flexibility reduced leakages and ensured uninterrupted welfare access for rural beneficiaries. Sometimes we need the help of drone surveillance, for example, space technology, the monitoring that happens from space, monitoring for natural disasters, for early warnings, for floods, and for the agricultural land, the weather, prediction of the weather, the soil and everything for agriculture. A lot of scientific processes are involved, and in that case civil servants will have to have that the street smartness, the scientific knowledge, and the ability to learn and adapt to new technologies. Yes. Then we have inclusivity. Inclusivity can be of different types, but inclusivity as a whole, like gender inclusivity, financial inclusivity, all sorts of inclusivity, so that no one is left behind, right? So India is a diverse country in terms of social status, okay, social status, income, etc., and civil servants should be able to work for every section of the society. Civil servants should be able to work for every section of the society. When an administrator mandates tactile pathways, ramps, sign language to support across all public administrative buildings. It ensures that persons with disabilities, PWDs, can access government services independently and with dignity. Not struggling. They should not be seen struggling. They should not be seen they should not feel inaccessible, right? When we make our public administrative buildings accessible by providing tactile pathways, ramps, sign language, and everything that is necessary to make these buildings accessible and inclusive to PWDs. Then we have gender inclusivity for transgender as well. When we talk about gender inclusivity, also women, making workplaces safer for women, making streets bright with street lights so that women feel safe, and everything that comes under this type. Should the administrative perspective be integrated into every GS answer selectively? Selectively, as and when the question demands, and it should be quite, you don't try to force it in when it does not come naturally. Do not try to force it in. It's not necessary that with each and every single answer you have to give administrative examples. Just throw in a few here and there, and the examiner will understand. They will know that you have a good understanding and you know it, right? Okay, so that is it. And next we have optimism. Civil servants need to be optimistic, which brings positivity and self-confidence. Optimism is so important because you will be facing thousands of problems on a daily basis, right? So positivity and self-confidence is your remedy in them to function under extreme stress. So for example, during the allocation of optimism, no, this is talking about objectivity. Objectivity is another thing. Something wrong happened. Okay, optimism, we know. Optimism, like being able to see the positive in every situation, being able to see the glass as half full instead of half empty. That simply defines what optimism is. Then we have objectivity also, right? So this is an example of objectivity, okay, please. Now pay attention. During the allocation of welfare funds, for example, or flood relief packages, an objective civil servant relies strictly on satellite imagery or verified socio-economic census or data. Data is the key word. An objective civil servant will always rely on data and third-party surveys rather than local political recommendations or subjective impressions. Not subjective impressions, not relying on emotional inclinations or prejudice or bias, but strictly relying on data alone. Then we have foundational values for civil services. Now aptitude part is done. Now we have foundational values for civil services. Is it clear till now? Able to understand? Okay, so values are individual principles or qualities that guide judgment and behavior of a person or a group. What are values? Values are individual principles or qualities that guide your judgment or guide your behavior. Okay? For example, Mother Teresa regarded empathy as the highest value. When we think of Mother Teresa, what comes to our mind? Empathy, care, kindness, service. These are the values that we think of when the name Mother Teresa comes in our mind, right? And foundational values are those values that are basic and fundamental in nature. Foundational values are those values that are basic and fundamental in nature, determine the core identity of a civil servant and are essential to achieve objectives or goals such as integrity, compassion, etc. Additionally, they offer a normative consensus regarding the privileges and rights that citizens are entitled to. For example, the foundational value of compassion. Foundational values leads to or offer a normative consensus amongst a group to consider something as the norm, okay, about the rights and privileges the citizens are entitled to, the citizens are supposed to get, okay. For example, foundational value of compassion. Based on this foundational value of compassion, an IAS officer named Prashant Nair started Compassionate Kozhikode project. This is a project and he did several things under Compassionate Kozhikode project, okay. He demonstrated radical administrative inclusivity through Operation Sulaimani. Operation Sulaimani, what is that? A dignity-based free food program. Free food program. How? Crowdsourced welfare projects. Through crowdsourced welfare projects, ensuring marginalized citizens actively participated in local governance rather than being passive and recipients. So they included everyone, and he, under this program, he had, free food programs, construction of free toilets. So there are several things that he did under this project. Why did he do that? Because of his foundational value of compassion. In India, civil services values have evolved over years of tradition. It keeps evolving, it keeps changing, updating. So we have now pay attention to these rules and codes of conduct rules that we have, because in your answers you will have to refer to these rules, you have to refer to second ARC reports, okay. Now, central civil services conduct rules, these are what our rules are derived, what we should do and should not do, the rules are derived from here. This is where the source lies and we must have good knowledge over this. Central Civil Services Conduct Rules 1964 and All India Services Conduct Rules 1968. Central Civil Services Conduct Rules 1964 and All India Services Conduct Rules 1968 mentions values like integrity and devotion to duty. Then we have Draft Public Service Bill to 2007. These are the sources. Enumerated values like allegiance to the ideals of constitution, good governance to be the primary goal, apolitical functioning, objectivity, impartiality, accountability, transparency in decision making, merit-based selection of civil services, avoidance of wastage in expenditure, etc. These are all mentioned in the Draft Public Service Bill 2007. Do remember these values and where it is mentioned. And that is how we understand, we know when we break those rules, right? We do not comply and we can be charged for that. Now, 10th report of second ARC. Second Administrative Reforms Commission. What does it say? In addition to upholding constitutional spirit, now upholding constitutional spirit is there already. Now, apart from that, the 10th report of second ARC recommends values such as highest standards of integrity and conduct has to be maintained by civil servants. Highest standards of integrity and conduct. Then impartiality and non-partisanship. Now we will discuss all these values, all these qualities in detail. What does it mean to be What does it mean to be impartial? What does it mean? And what is the difference? What does it mean to be non-partisan? Don't worry about that. We are going to discuss everything. But for now, just know all these terms. Objectivity. Then we have dedication to public service, empathy and compassion towards the weaker sections. Okay. Then also we have code of ethics for civil servants as mentioned in fourth report of second ARC. Do remember, where is the code of ethics for civil servants mentioned? It is mentioned in fourth report of second ARC. A draft public service bill under consideration of the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions seeks to lay down a number of generic expectations from civil servants. Okay, generic expectations from civil servants which are referred to as values. Okay, the salient values envisaged in the bill are allegiance to the various ideals enshrined in the preamble of the Constitution, then apolitical functioning. You have to abide by the allegiance. You know, your allegiance is required to the various ideals enshrined in the preamble. Then apolitical function is required. You cannot support political party openly. Good governance for betterment of the people to be the primary goal of civil service. Good governance, okay? And betterment of the people is the primary goal of civil service. Duty to act objectively and impartially. Duty to act objectively and impartially. Accountability and transparency in decision making. Accountability and transparency in decision making. Then maintenance of highest ethical standards. Maintenance of highest ethical standards. Merit to be the criteria in selection of civil servants consistent, however, with cultural, ethnic and other diversities. We have to keep that in mind. Yes, merit should be the criteria of selection of someone into the civil services. However, cultural, ethnic and other diversities of the nation has to be kept in mind. Now, next we have evolution. Ensuring economy and avoidance of wastage in expenditure. Can you see that? It is written again and again that you have to be good stewards of public money, of the government resources, and to ensure economy and avoidance of wastage in expenditure. Just because the things are not yours, things are not your personal belongings, does not mean that you will encourage or tolerate any kind of wastage. Okay, then provision of healthy and congenial work environment. In workplace, you have to make your workplace healthy and congenial of work. Communication, consultation and cooperation in performance of functions, that is participation of all levels of personnel in management, that is required as well. Good communication, consultation and cooperation in performance. Yeah, that's all for now. For today, that is all. We will wind up here. Next, we have tomorrow we are going to take the next part, the second part, but I will notify tomorrow. Actually, my classes are from Monday to Friday. I may not take tomorrow as tomorrow is Saturday. In case I do not take tomorrow, I will be continuing from Monday onwards. Okay, so we will keep our schedule intact. Tomorrow there's other things going on in this studio, so from my classes will be from Monday to Friday next week onwards. Okay, so thank you so much everyone for attending live, and I will see you in the next class. Hope you have understood everything and hope you have enjoyed the class. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me anytime. Okay, thank you again. ক্লাছটো এণ্ড কৰিব লাগিছিলে দেৱজিৎ ক্লাছটো এণ্ড কৰিব লাগিছিল